I am going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I want to start out talking about the characters in this book because I think this is where a lot of them really shine. And I think it also shows you that there's a whole different kind of world here, and a lot of people have other lives other than Harry. Because before it was all about Harry all the time, but now you start to see that other characters have these dark pasts, that other people kind of have tragic lives, and not just Harry. So I think that's really cool. You see Hagrid talking about how he's half giant and that people really don't like that and stuff like that, and he confides in someone. One of the one of the head girls or whatever her name is, and she just completely rejects him, even though she is so clearly half giant. It is so not okay to be half giant that her herself doesn't want to admit it, even to someone else who is half giant. That's really sad. And you see how much Hagrid has cared for Harry so much. He's so much of a nurturer, how much he cares for monsters and stuff like that, and without judgment. And it's really beautiful, that kind of character development. I think the thing that's very interesting with Mad-Eye Moody is that, or Barty Crouch Jr., is that when he's teaching the Cruciatus Curse and he sees Neville Longbottom being very uncomfortable, he invites him back to kind of comfort him, give him some tea, I believe a book as well, and kind of be very kind. You also hear Harry say that's a very Lupin thing to do. After we fall in love with Lupin and he's taken away from us, we start to really care for Mad-Eye Moody. But we also kind of forget the dark things he did, turning Draco into a ferret, not great. But we also get great moments of Hermione kind of scaring Draco, being like, Mad-Eye Moody's coming, and you see Draco flinch. You also see Hermione get these great moments of activism with the house elves. And you see Dobby again in the kitchen. You also see how brainwashed a lot of these house elves are. And you feel really awful for them, even though everyone else in the book seemingly doesn't care. Even Harry, the person in the first book that wanted so badly for Dobby to be free, and now he seemingly doesn't care, or doesn't care as much, is very interesting to me. And you also kind of don't like Ron in this book, which is a first, because Ron has always been kind of a favorite, just in the sense of he is everyone's dream best friend. He is loyal, he is kind, he's just always there for Harry when he needs him, except now. Because once again, Harry is in the spotlight, and that's something Ron has always wanted, but he's had brothers his whole life. He now has Harry, and he just kind of feels forgotten. And then again with Hermione, he's also mad at her with some bits of jealousy in there during the Yule Ball, and you just kind of see Ron in a different light. And I also want to touch on the fact that you also see Dumbledore a lot more active in this book in terms of how involved he is with the Goblet of Fire. He is pretty dang active, understandably so, but it is interesting to note, and this is the first time Voldemort is a threat at all. Voldemort and all the other books have always just seemed like something you should be scared of because other people are scared of. Everyone else doesn't say his name because they've heard stories and stuff like that. It's a bad thing, he's a bad guy. But you've never actually seen him be that threatening. Yes, he put Harry's life in danger, but he never really killed anyone that we really saw, other than maybe Harry's parents, but we really didn't see that. We just hear about it. So when they when they get sent to the graveyard, and Harry sees Cedric Diggory die, this character that had just been this huge amount of good in the book, just a great character. He shows how much he helps Harry and how much of a good person he is. And he dies. just immediately, like it doesn't matter, and you don't have time to really even grieve about that because Voldemort's right there and there's just a lot going on. Voldemort's back. And I feel like it makes this book so much more interesting because you have the plot with Mad-Eye Moody. You have Voldemort, it's finally back, and he proves that killing someone's not really that big of a deal to him, which you've heard but you've never seen. And you also kind of just have this sense of you care a lot more about different characters. You care so much more about pretty much everyone because not everyone is so black and white. You have different like shades of gray. Even like Hermione showed that she's not always rule abiding. When Hermione finds out that Reader Skeeter is actually an Omega, she quite legitimately traps her, like in a jar or something, and keeps her captive for some time and blackmails her. Isn't that like a little bit like not Hermione, like that we've seen in the other book? Because everyone's changing, we learn more about them. And I think that's really cool. We actually care about someone else other than Harry in this book, and we see that people are multi-dimensional, and I think that's just a really interesting aspect and why this book is so important. Because without this book, the main person is always Harry. Harry's everyone's favorite because he's the only one we know about. And it seemed the only one that really, before this book, was that affected by Voldemort because he was orphaned. But then you also hear Longbottom, you realize he has a more tragic story than even Harry, but you don't know about it until now. Like, his is so sad that when he sees his parents for, I think, Christmas every year, they have no idea who he is. He was raised by his grandmother, and yes, Harry lives in a home where he is literally abused, but he didn't have to see his parents just not know who he is. And it's just a different kind of pain, in my opinion, that you have no idea about until now. That's why I think, in my opinion, that so far, Goblet of Fire is my favorite book that I've read.